trying to find the, never mind.
This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire Stick TV, Facebook, and YouTube. Get all your sports news here first. The daily podcasts are Ken and Ken in the Morning, Lions Talk with Smoking Jeremy B, Wrestling Roundup, The Big Football Show, and more, Shield TV, Lions Villain Report, and Red Zone Rant. The afternoon podcasts are Valhalla, Grosef Sports, WCFL Dolphins Talk, The Cheap Seats, The Bodkin Show, Spirit of Detroit Podcast, and MM The nightly podcasts are Palace Hall Report, Frozen Tundra Network, Skull Gang 365, The Huddle Sports Network Open Mic, First and 10 with Foz, Main Event Football Show, Prime Sports World, The Man Cave, Prim and Proper Sports. Spitballing Podcast, Lions Fan Cave Chat, Puckett, 313 Den Podcast, The Guys Huddle, Shots from the Sideline, Let's Talk Sports, The Michigan Truth Sports Podcast, Off the Rails, NFC Northeast, Power Hours, and Detroit Lions News. Make sure you follow, like, share, subscribe, and comment. Hope you like all the shows.
All right, good morning, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Wrap. Oh, yeah, there's some Chicago for you, and Saturday in the Park, it's a Saturday, all right, and it's right here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, X platforms, the South Florida Tribune Network, and on the Huddle Sports Network. My name is Ralph Williams. I am your host, and today my panel is to my right, Scott Morganroth, or to your left, next is Pensman Sports. And then we have Leo Haggerty. Scott is with the South Florida Tribune. He's the editor-in-chief. And then also we have Pensman Sports, who also is part of the South Florida Tribune. To my bottom here first is Leo Haggerty from Amped Up Sports. And then to his right or left on your screen is Ray Fittipaldo from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, who covers the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, it's a Pittsburgh invasion here a little bit, but
well, not necessarily, Ralph. Hold on. I'm sorry to interrupt you, my friend. I think it's actually a South Florida one. And let's go to Joshua Doerr's comments real quick, because this guy's pretty geeked up here a little bit about what the Florida Panthers are doing. So let's start that out real quick before you talk about this guy is ramped up because Brad Marchand is now a member of the Florida Panthers. We'll get to that in a little bit, Joshua. So before Leo has a heart attack and we talk about rats in here, don't worry. Okay, these are rats that they throw on the ice like octopus in Detroit, so you don't have to worry. It's all in good taste. We're talking about the animal world, so it's okay, Leo. It's okay. I'd like to see you live to another episode, so Joshua Doerr is okay. I'll make sure of that. I'm in charge of the chat room. All right, with that said, what I'm wearing here today is a hat from the Super Bowl. Bring it to me.
Guys, real quick. Brad Marchand is the Warren Sapp of hockey. You know what that means?
What?
Love him if he's on your team, but the 31 other teams hate his guts.
Yeah. You know, the Brad Marchand trade probably ended up winning the Florida Panthers their back-to-back title. And if you add some of the reinforcements that they added as well with Seth Jones, I think it is, right? Did they add him?
Yeah.
And the Panthers obviously gave up a pick, but don't sell Spencer Knight short as well, because I think Chicago got their goaltender of the future. I know that there's draft compensation later on. We'll get to that a little bit later in the broadcast, but I wanted to make sure that we went out there and addressed this from the get-go as well. So please be patient, Joshua. It was important to get this out there so you don't have a heart attack. I know your wife's going to have a baby soon, so you kind of have to be around for the delivery. So, for it. So meanwhile, sorry to interrupt you, Ralph, but the Joshua Doerr invasion is already there. So go ahead and proceed, my friend.
All right, thank you. And today we're going to discuss the best players ever on football teams in the NFL, and it's going to start off. We're going to do the AFC South today. Last week we did the AFC North, and but this week we're going to do the AFC South. But first, let's talk about Geno Smith, who was traded to yesterday by the Seattle Seahawks to the Las Vegas Raiders to join up with Pete Carroll. So we'll start with you, Ray. Ray, your thoughts first on this.
Yeah, from what I read, I guess the Seahawks wanted that contract to come in around 35 million a year, and then he wanted more like 45 million a year, which to me is crazy money for a guy like Geno Smith. I think he's a mid-level quarterback in the NFL. Paying that guy 45 million a year doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So for John Schneider, third round pick isn't much. Now you got to go look for a quarterback, but when you have a salary cap and you're going to have to pay a mid-level quarterback 45 million a year, I don't blame them for not doing it. So I don't think it's a great return. I don't know what the Raiders are getting. They're probably going to be a little bit better just because Geno Smith is better than what they've had. But I actually think that was an okay move by John Schneider and the Seahawks.
All right, Leo, your thoughts on this Geno Smith thing?
Joe, let me bounce this off you real quick. Do you think the Seahawks had a conversation with one Aaron Rodgers before they made this move? Because what you do is you're going to get Aaron Rodgers for a considerably lower market value for a year or two. That'll give you time to figure out what's going on. I'll tell you what, if I were the Los Angeles Rams, if I was the Arizona Cardinals, if I was the San Francisco 49ers, I'd be scared to death to see Aaron Rodgers head to Seattle, because that's the first thing that hit me. When they traded Geno Smith, they wanted Geno Smith because Pete Carroll wanted him. But they got a plan. Seattle doesn't do things without a plan. So there's somebody in the works. It may be, Darnold. It may be Rodgers. It may be a draft pick. Yeah, I think, like you said, Ray, they got it under control. And the bottom line is, this thing that the next quarterback up has to be higher. What are you going to do with Brock Purdy? I think San Francisco's in the same boat. You can't pay the guy $50 million, and that's what everybody's talking. And I go back to what the Rams did. They got to a point where, Stafford's making $27 million, okay? But when he signed that contract, nobody put a gun to his head. That's what was going to happen. And you know what? If you get to that point where you want to renegotiate, fine. But somebody's going to have to just say, whoa. I mean, who's the next guy up? Well, if it's not Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts, how are you going to explain paying him that?
Well, sorry about that. I had my mic off for a minute there. Pensman, you're next. Go ahead. What's your thoughts, Geno Smith?
I was out last night and I looked over at the TV and I saw breaking news and I saw that and I thought the first thing out of my mind was, well, there goes Russell Wilson. Steelers are going to keep Russell Wilson. That's the first thing that came to my mind. No more Pat Carroll and Russell Wilson reunite. Geno Smith is a good quarterback. He just has to have a good offensive line. I don't think the Raiders are a good fit for him, but we'll see. I might be surprised, but I don't think it was a good move. I thought they needed a better player than that, but NFL surprised, so we'll see what happens.
All right, Scott.
Leo, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What have you been drinking this morning?
Not much.
Well, have you been drinking anything? Got to stay hydrated, right?
Yeah, I just had a little bit of water.
Okay, good. You know what you're also drinking?
Huh?
The GMTA Kool-Aid, called Great Minds Think Alike Kool-Aid. That's what you're having. And I'll tell you why I say that, Leo, candidly speaking. Number one, I believe you're 100% right. Rodgers signs in Seattle. What happens? All of a sudden, Kyle Shanahan's going to have to invest in the Tylenol 3 because he's going to have a headache twice a year, right? And in fact, don't you think that Rodgers is a little upset that the 49ers didn't draft him? Don't you think that's a little bothersome? You with me? A little bit of an edge there. We call it an edge, a little revenge. So, and I think the Geno Smith trade to the Raiders was shrewd because, number one, he reunites with a coach that believes in him. And anytime you reunite with a coach that believes in you, then you really want to prove the coach right that he ended up bringing you in there. So a third-round pick, ever heard of Joe Montana? I think we all have, right? once upon a time out of Notre Dame, he was a third-round pick. Guess what? They worked out pretty good.
Yeah.
So don't sell that third-round pick short. I wouldn't, personally. I think it could be a good situation all the way around. Now, the dynamic is, where does Russell Wilson land? I don't know. The best part about it is got enough Pittsburgh guys on this whole show that will enlighten us on it. But if I were a bet man, and I don't bet because my wife would go out there, well, no, actually, she doesn't mind if I bet, because when I was in Biloxi, Mississippi, I started winning money and paying for the trip because I knew when to get off the slots at the right time. But if I were a bet man, I'd say Justin Fields going to wind up with New York with the Jets. Rodgers could wind up with the Giants, and you never know. Maybe Russell Wilson could land at Pittsburgh. I don't know. We'll leave it out there.
All right, D-Law 77 and Josh Dorsey, happy birthday to Pensman. Happy birthday to Pensman today also. And there we are with those comments. And we'll get, I want to thank those in the comment section, Josh Dorr. I also want to thank D-Law 77 as well. All right, my thought.
Can I jump in real quick before we start?
Go ahead, Leo.
I hope somebody had a chance to look at what was Wilt Chamberlain-esque numbers last night from the Joker. 31 points, 21 rebounds, 22 assists. That's Wilt Chamberlain numbers. We haven't seen that since the Big Dipper hung it up. That is phenomenal. And he did it against Kevin Garnett in Phoenix.
All right, guys. My thoughts on Geno Smith is this. He, like Ray said, he's an average quarterback. He was overpaid to begin with. And then, he just, now he's going to go back with Pete Carroll, and we'll see what he does in Las Vegas with the Raiders. And we'll go from there. I was not sold on Pete Carroll being the head coach there. He's in his 70s. I mean, come on, you're coming back. How much longer are you going to last, in the coaching, and especially in the NFL at that age?
All right,
So
you know what, Ralph? I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry to do that, okay? But please accept this as an apology. You're not drinking the GMTA Kool-Aid that Leo is drinking, because now Leo understands there's a new drink out there called GMTA. If there's anybody fit for that Raiders job, it's Pete Carroll. He wins.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he does win, but we'll see what he does. As far as it goes, he's got a lot of work to do. And all right. Also in the NFL, let's talk about the Joey Bosa cut. Who gets him? Who do you think gets him? And who do you think wants him? Joey Bosa is now sitting out. The rumor has he might go with his brother down in San Francisco. Start with you, Scott. Go ahead.
All right. What was your question again? I'm sorry.
Talking about the cut, the Los Angeles Chargers cutting Joey Bosa.
I think it was inevitable. I mean, the guy was eating up too much of their salary cap, and he can be a bit of an injury situation. Could they sign him at a reduced rate? Possibly, but I think Joey Bosa is going to land in San Francisco or Detroit. Probably San Francisco will be reunited with his brother. That was inevitable.
All right, Josh Dorr wants to know, Pensman, how are you celebrating your birthday? That's all he wants to know. So. All right, but Pensman, you're next.
I think he's going to go back to San Francisco, but you never know. Patriots might go in and sneak in and get him. The Patriots have the most money in free agency. They could get help with the defensive line. Detroit might have a good chance with Aiden Hutchinson. He was hurt last year, most of the year, so that they might bring him in for backup. But I think he's going to go to San Francisco with his brother.
All right, Ray FIDEPALDO.
Yeah, listen, first off, I never thought Joey Bosa ever lived up to the hype. Obviously thought he was overpaid. As far as San Francisco goes, they seem to be getting rid of everyone. They seem to be in a situation where they're kind of cutting bait with a lot of high contracts. So I don't know that Joey Bosa necessarily fits there. Now, if he wants to go there for for a bargain and play with his brother, that's one thing. But if he's expecting big money from them, they're cutting big contracts left and right. So I'm not sure that's going to happen.
So, Ray, it sounds like to me you're drinking the GMTA Kool-Aid too.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. Now you know what the GMTA Kool-Aid is too, right, Ray?
Absolutely.
They're going to end up getting him for pennies on the dollar if he goes there to be with his bro. Otherwise, who knows what's going to get him? Because his injury history, unfortunately, hampers the guy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's get to our greatest players ever, which we've been doing We started last week with or 2 weeks ago with the AFC North. So let's start now with the AFC South. Let's start with you, Pensman. Jacksonville Jaguars. Who's the greatest player ever for Jacksonville?
Well, Penn's been thinking about that. Let me jump in because this is the easiest one in the world. Anthony Munoz.
Yeah.
Anthony Munoz. That's end of story, isn't it, guys?
Wait, who was it? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Anthony Munoz. Isn't that the end of story?
Not for Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Jacksonville?
He never played for Jacksonville, I don't think.
He played for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
2 weeks
Jacksonville.
Yeah,
North.
that's AFC North, buddy.
Yeah. We're in the AFC South today, Leo. Jacksonville Jaguars. Go ahead.
Let me help Leo out. Fred Taylor was a good running back, and he was solid. So I pick him as one of the great Jacksonville Jaguars running back.
Okay, Scott Morganroth.
Tony Vaselli, not even close.
Yes,
Okay.
Absolutely. All right, go ahead, Ray Fittipaldo.
Yeah, Fred Taylor is a guy who's on the cusp of the Hall of Fame. It seems like almost every year they can't get him in down there in Jacksonville. But even though Tony Baselli had a short career, he made it to the Hall of Fame. So I think I got to go Baselli too.
Not only that, he was also brought into their front office recently as well. So he'll definitely help build the culture there, like what Chris Spielman is doing in Detroit. You bring out a legendary player, you shape the culture, good things are going to happen. Great points, Ray.
All right. Let's go, Leo.
Yeah,
Leo,
I had the wrong Anthony.
There you go.
I had the right position. I had the wrong Anthony. But yeah, Tony Baselli. I mean, I
Right.
absolutely.
Anthony,
All right,
Tony,
here
it's
we
all
are.
the same thing, right? Tony, Anthony, what's the difference?
Got that
That's
right.
what you're called by, right?
One played for Cincinnati, one played for the Jaguars.
Yeah, but I'll never refute the guy when it comes to Cincinnati.
No.
Is easily up there.
All right, guys, let's go with the Houston Texans. Houston Texans. Scott, start with you.
The wide receiver helped me out on this. Was it Andre Johnson?
Yes.
Yeah,
Got to put him in there. Texans took advantage of the Lions' mistake when they had drafted Charles Rogers. Oh, my gosh. You talk about a gaffe. That was it. I think it was Charles Rogers, right?
Leo
I mean,
Haggard.
when you think about it, the guy played out of the University of Miami, ended up turning out well. If you can draft a Hall of Famer as your first pick and he winds up in the Hall of Fame, and Leo knows where I'm going with this one, right, then you made out pretty good.
absolutely. J.J. Watt, guys.
All right, yeah, J.J. Watt. Yeah, that's who I have. Pensman.
Same. J.J. Watt was a wreck. He's like his brother. You get in his area, watch out.
Now, if there's anybody I ever felt bad for, it was David Carr after the way he got assaulted. Because the offense, I felt bad for him.
Okay, let's go with Ray Fittipaldo. Go ahead with this one, and where do you see the next team we're going to go with? Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, I got to go J.J. Watt as well, 3-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year and Hall of Famer for sure. So I got to go J.J. as well.
All right, here's what I forgot to do is pay some bills. So let me do that right now. And first, we're going to start off with this segment. It's brought to you by Scott's book, Lessons from the Microphone, An Enduring Wisdom. And also, don't forget to pick it up at Barnes & Noble and Amazon, and also by Scott's publisher. A great book to read, and I got to tell you, 45 years of Scott's experience, interviews in there with Muhammad Ali and a whole lot more. So check it out here, Lessons from the Microphone. Get it. It's a really great book to read if you're into broadcasting or you want to know anything currently and from the past. Scott's your man here in this book. Our studio sponsors Mata Heating and Air Conditioning, and we're here live at Studios 808 in Allentown section of the city of Pittsburgh. Mata Heating and Air Conditioning, 724-201-0500. Call Mata today, Mata Heating and Air Conditioning. All right, let's get back to the greatest players on all NFL teams that you think they are. And let's go with the Tennessee Titans / Houston Oilers. We'll start with you, Ray.
So we are incorporating the old Houston Oilers as well.
Yeah, with the current Tennessee Titans, yes.
All right, I'm going to go Earl Campbell. I was going to go Eddie George if we were talking, after the move. But Earl Campbell, again, short career, but that guy was a load back in the day. So I think he's deserving.
Ralph, didn't I tell you to put 2 players instead of 1? But that's okay. We'll go 1 since you're consistent with that.
Yeah, that's fine. But there were some good players with the Tennessee Titans when they started up. So there are some a really super best player. All right, let's go with Leo Haggerty.
And you know what, Scott? I'm going to take 2 as well. I'm going to take Tennessee, Eddie George, but I'm going to go way back, guys. George Blanda, when he was quarterback for the Houston Oilers, when he was a kicker, he was kicking at what? He was like 44, 45, something, Tom Brady-esque. But, yeah, George Blanda and Eddie George.
All right, Pensman.
Rest in peace, Steve McNair for the Texans, Warren Moon for the Houston Oilers.
He picked 2 quarterbacks. There you go. That's good. All right, Scott Morganroth, go ahead with yours.
I'm going to throw the ultimate curveball at all you guys.
Go ahead.
Number 1, I agree with Ray that Earl Campbell should be on there and Eddie George, but I'm going to go ahead and put Bum Phillips or Jerry Glanville in the coaching side for these teams.
Oh, yes.
I have no choice. My buddy Chip Namath, who's one of the greatest PR guys, worked with Jerry Glanville, and he loves Jerry, and he's always talking to him all the time. And I met Jerry, and he gave me a great interview when we were in Atlanta at the Georgia Dome, and I love Jerry. And Bum Phillips, how do you not love Bum? But you know what, Ray? You're dynamite, as Jimmy Walker would say. Earl Campbell would be great, but I got to go with Eddie George. And I'll tell you why I'm going with Eddie George, because he's a head coach for Tennessee State University as well. He's a Nashville guy through and through between. So for all you Ohio State Buckeyes that like him, he's doing some pretty good stuff in Nashville. And you know what, Pensman? Got to give you credit. Steve McNair tragically passed away, but he does deserve honorable mention. Did I go over my allotment? Yeah, but I apologize for nothing. So don't go out there and hold against me, Leo. I've done worse things than that.
All right, I go with Eddie George and Dan Pastorini.
He's putting up his watch.
But you know what, Leo? I like your choices. I think anybody that can go back to George Blanda is pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
George Blanda, I didn't even know he played for the Houston.
Wow. You live and learn.
How about Kenny?
Oh, yeah.
We even talked about Kenny Houston. There's another flash from the past who could play that cornerback pretty well.
Well, now you just did. And if you really want to take it a little step further, hold on, Ralph. If you want to take it a step further, you might as well bring out Billy White Shoes Johnson for the sake that he introduced the celebration.
Hey, real quick, guys. Here's my Billy White Shoes Johnson story. He's playing. It wasn't Widener. It was Penn Military, PMC. And I'm at Drexel. And the coach had this great idea that he said, Leo, you take Billy White Shoes Johnson man to man, and you let him run by you, and you cover his back, and our safety will cover the top, so we'll double team him. I said, great idea, coach. First play, 80 yards. The safety's never to be found, and I'm chasing them. Second time they get the ball, 75 yards. I'm chasing them. I walk over to the defense coordinator and said, we ain't doing this anymore. He said, why? It's not your fault. I said, you tell all those people in the stands it's not my fault. I'm the guy chasing them. Not happening.
So
he could play. My God, he was so fast.
Can I ask you guys a question? Since Leo Haggerty introduced the unofficial topic in Transistor Radios a few weeks ago, or whenever it was, what's your favorite celebration of all time? I'm going to add that because I'm really curious to see what everybody on the panel has.
Billy White Shoes. No one's going to be able to do that.
What about you, Rick? Hold on.
Yeah, I mean that's when I was growing up. I remember Billy White Shoes Johnson all the time. I mean, a few years later you had the Fun Bunch with the Redskins, but I got to go Billy White Shoes Johnson.
What about you, Pensman?
Prime time, Deion Sanders. I loved his celebration.
All right, I got one for you. What about the cell phone trick?
Hit the cell phone.
Pull it out of the back.
Yeah, hit the cell phone right inside the end zone and pulled it out. That was awesome. I'm just curious.
Yeah, and he called his mom too.
But I love it. In fact, you came up with the transistor radio one, and I view that as an unofficial topic. And boy, Leo, did you ever set my brain back to the past instead of back to the future? That was awesome, brother.
All right, mine is the Iggy Shuffle. Iggy Woods from the Cincinnati Bengals.
Hey,
So-
Scott, I like T.O.'s Sharpie too.
Well, that was good.
that's-
Yeah, the Sharpie was good. I really liked that one. I thought it was
Yeah.
pretty good.
That
But
Sharpie was,
that
that
cell
Sharpie
phone-
was creative.
If that wasn't premeditated, then tell me what the word premeditated was.
Premeditated. That means it was done.
Plan advance.
Exactly.
Before.
That's my point. He had enough confidence to get in the end zone to pull that off. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
One of the
absolutely.
greatest,
Okay,
right?
last but not least, the Indianapolis / Baltimore Colts. All right, I'm going to start it off. I'll go with Johnny Unitas and Peyton Manning, and Scott Morgan.
I'm not debating those two. Johnny Unitas for sure, Peyton Manning. I don't think you can do any better than those two guys.
Oh yeah. All right, Pensman.
Marvin Harrison Jr. What he did with those numbers, no man.
All right, Leo Haggerty.
Guys, I'm going to go way back. Gino Marchetti and Raymond Berry. And
I
it's
knew it.
not saying
Oh,
any-
Raymond Barry's a good one. Yeah.
I knew he was bringing up Raymond Barry.
yeah, not saying anything against Unitas or Peyton Manning, but I just got to add those two to the list because Gino Marchetti was the ultimate defensive end at the time. And Raymond Berry probably couldn't get a catch in the NFL right now because I can't remember him ever catching the ball with 2 feet inbounds. I mean, that was the whole thing. Boom, hit the sideline.
Hey, Leo, correct me if I'm wrong, okay? Did Raymond Barry play for the Lions too?
If he did, it was for a cup of coffee.
Right, exactly. Now, if I also remember correctly, didn't he coach the New England Patriots as well?
He did and got hammered by the Bears with that 46 defense. Yeah.
Yeah, but at least he got to the Super Bowl and coached them. So many people don't realize that Raymond Barry coached the Patriots into the Super Bowl. How many people would actually get that one? Just curious.
No, I know about that when I watched that Super Bowl. I remember it. Yes.
That's
So
when Walter Payton didn't score and the fridge did.
Oh, that was a joke.
I know.
Ray FIDEPALDO.
I'll bet Mike Ditka would probably, if he had to replay that in his head, he'd do that one over. Sorry, Ray. I didn't mean to interrupt you, brother.
No, you're good. Quick Google search. Only played for the Colts, 55 to 67. That was his only team. How can you go wrong with Johnny U or Peyton Manning? Different eras, hard to compare those guys. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably go Johnny U.
Thank you, Ray. I appreciate you looking that up. Thank you, buddy.
All right. Next, guys, we're going to talk a little bit of baseball here real quick. We're not going to talk a lot because we're still in spring training, but there is a baseball topic we have to talk about. But let's talk about RW Media Productions. Anyone interested in some sponsorship advertising? I offer 6 podcasts, 2 radio shows on 1250 AM The Answer and 92.5 FM every single Saturday. In fact, we just had on the Ralph Williams, Tony Moreno show right here. And then also, don't forget about the Sports Corner radio show at 2 o'clock. You get these 2 shows plus the 6 podcasts, including this one. And also my website, www.rwmediaproductions.com. You get that as well. All for one low price. Call today, 412-545-4317 or ralphwilliams737@gmail.com. Also, if you want to put your email in, I will read off the mailbag. And sometimes we have some mailbag and sometimes we don't. We haven't had any lately for this show, but it'll be coming, I think so. All right, real quick. Vladimir Guerrero, I want everyone's thoughts. $600 million, Toronto Blue Jays. Start with you, Ray.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's the going price in MLB. I think he's an excellent hitter. At some point, if you're the Blue Jays, you got to pay up. So, I think that's a good move.
All right. Also, next, Leo Haggerty.
You know what amazes me about baseball, gentlemen, is you're paying these guys stupid money, and they're failing 7 out of 10 times and still making this kind of money. I get it with analytics and that you can strike out 120 times, but if you hit 40 home runs, you're worth every penny. But I know these guys that played back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s are either rolling over in the grave or going, my God, how can you sit there at the bat and swing and strike out over 100 times? I mean, let's go back to the Chicago Cubs. John Kessinger, I think, struck out 18 times in a whole season.
Wow.
That's it. You know, we got guys that strike out 18 times in 3 weeks. I mean, that's terrible. But they're encouraged to swing for the fences. And baseball's kind of getting into the same situation as football is with quarterbacks. Because you can stretch this out over time, that money is going to look good probably in another 3 or 4 years, because it's just going to keep going up and up and up. It's like the price of real estate, right, guys? That's not coming down. It's going up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, Pensman, Vladimir Guerrero.
He's not like his dad, I'll tell you that. But if you strike out and you swing for the fence, you make the money. Sammy Sosa never made that much money. I don't know. It's just if Toronto wants to pay him.
All right, Scott Morgan.
Canadian money or if it's in American cash. That's interesting.
Yeah, I was about to get to that GMTA Kool-Aid. That's what he's going to call you, that new nickname, Mr. Haggerty. All right, first of all, there you go. Keep drinking it, my brother. That's all I can tell you, Haggerty. But the reality is the fact that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had an opportunity to own Canada, and instead it was no Canada. And that's why he'll end up be playing for the Yankees down the road. And as far as the value of the Canadian dollar, I don't know, maybe they had to pay him $700 million in Canadian money to equal to 500-600. I don't know what the exchange rate is, so don't ask me. And every time I go to Canada, I put it on my Visa cards. They have to do the transition as well. But if you want to get into low strikeouts, Leo, think no further than Wade Boggs, and Luis Arias, believe it or not, doesn't strike out a lot either. That's why he has some batting championships in his pocket. So let's get into that conversation, that Wade Boggs didn't go out there and strike out a lot, and Luis Arias, one of the few players these days that doesn't either. I saw Luis Arias play for the Marlins. What a tremendous hitter.
Oh, yeah. All right, guys, let's move on here. We're going to go into our next segment. And our next segment is brought to you in part by, let me see if I can find it here. There we go. All right. It's brought to you in part by Keystone Coachworks. Keystone Coachworks, if you're handicapped as I am, and you need to get a van and you want it retrofitted for your needs, call Keystone Coachworks today, 412-833-1900. That's 412-833-1900. Ask for Dawn. Tell Dawn Ralph Williams sent you. I got to tell you, they did a wonderful job on my van. It's the way I want it. And, so they'll retrofit the van for you. And also there's financing available. So give them a call today. The number again, 412-833-1900 at KeystoneCoachworks.com. All right. Also, you need good insurance, any kind of insurance for anything. Life, renters. I advise if you rent to please get renters insurance. It's a cost of about maybe $15 to $20 a month, not even that. Call Robin today. Robin Campbell Insurance, Farmers, Bristol West, 412-366-3399, Robin Campbell Insurance. All right. Let's go into our next segment. And Scott, first I want to acknowledge Tiger Sports Media or Tiger Stripes Media for their comments, and then also Christopher Cole has also chimed in as well. And so let's go into let's see, we got another one here from all right, here we are here. It says Scott, can you read that from it says pay rate is getting crazy. I want 4-year deal, $105 million. All right.
Yeah, well, it does get a little bit crazy. There's no doubt, but the going rate for players is what it is. I remember, think about it, Babe Ruth when he ended up playing with $52,000 a year back in the day, and how can you imagine what he ended up being worth? And by the way, Christopher, just a quick favor, if you don't mind. In addition to what we do here, do you mind please subscribing to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel if you haven't already? So please help me out there, Christopher Cole, South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, much appreciated. So if you're worried about all these things that everybody's paying for, you imagine what Babe Ruth would be on today's market? Oh, Nelly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I want to acknowledge we're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, X platforms, Huddle Sports Network in the South Florida Tribune Network. Thank you all for watching today. We're here every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. My name is Ralph Williams, along with Scott Morganroth, Leo Haggerty, and our guests today are Pensman Sports and Ray FIDEPALDO from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. He covers the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there we are. Also, this afternoon, 2 to 3 o'clock p.m. on the Sports Corner radio show. Ray is doubleheader today for Ray. He's also going to be on our radio show at 2 o'clock this afternoon, talking about the combine and what the Steelers are up to at the combine, from the combine. And there it is right there with myself, Ralph Williams, Smoking Jim Frazier. No Claudio Rosano. He's in Florida for a baseball tournament. He is the head coach of the Carnegie Mellon University baseball team, and they're in a baseball tournament in Florida, and they won some games and did a pretty decent job down there this year for the Florida Baseball Classic. And also Luther Dupree from Steel City Sports World. All right. Next, we're going to have Scott Morganroth. He wants to talk about the Final Four in women's basketball. And also we have the men's tournament coming up real soon. But we also have conference tournaments coming up. And I want to put a shout out to Robert Morris. Robert Morris was sad for the last 4 or 5 years. They've been struggling in the Horizon League this year. They're going to make the tournament. They're 14, 15, and 8. And they're about to go to the NCAA tournament if they can get through the Horizon League tournament. And I think they can do it. They beat Wright State in the first game the other night. And so we'll see where they go from there. But kudos to Robert Morris, because Duquesne and Pitt, they've done nothing. And Pitt might be going to the NIT. Duquesne, who knows where they're going. So we'll see what happens there. Scott, go ahead.
All right. Well, in hockey, they call it assist. Well, guess what? On this show, I'm calling an assist to Mr. Leo Haggerty, who suggested the idea that I went out there and apply for the NCAA Women's Final Four. But here's what happened. Decided against going to Sebring. Probably the reason why is I hammered him a year ago when I had to cover the race over at the hotel. I don't think the PR guy liked me, so he didn't want me to come back. Don't blame you. Who in the heck wants to go out there and cover a race when you don't have monitors in the hotel, when the track is not big enough to accommodate all media requests? So if you didn't want me to come there, and I didn't want to go back anyways, it was a problem. But when Mr. Haggerty decided, hey, you know, what do you think about the NCAA Women's Final Four? I thought, not a bad idea, right, Leo? Correct? So what happens? I get approved inside of 48 hours. What a beautiful thing. And now Mr. Haggerty and probably Peter will end up getting books that weekend on a Saturday if I'm not too busy, signed, sealed, and delivered by yours truly, Mr. Really, Seriously, Really, which will be a new segment on next week's edition of Sports Wrap. You want to know what it is? Stay tuned. So here's the thing. I'm looking forward to covering it. I'll be paying attention a little bit more to the men's a little bit, but the women's are going to get my attention. And I'll tell you why they're going to get my attention, because back in the day when I was covering ladies basketball for the Tampa Tribune, one of the best players I ever saw play in that market was a young lady by the name of Jackie Eisenhower. I'm sure, do you remember her at all, Leo, or not?
Let me tell you how much I remember her.
How much?
We taught together at Gaither High School. She was the assistant principal, and I was there. And I coached against Jackie when she was at Armwood.
Well, good. Then I have a favor. I need you to get a hold of her right away and tell her your colleague here on Sports Wrap wants to talk to her and reminisce about it and put her on show, since you have that. She was one of the greatest basketball players. Will you do that for me, Leo? Put the bug in her ear?
Put that on my list of things to do this weekend. Absolutely.
Yeah. So thanks to you, I have an opportunity to cover the Women's Final Four, and I've never been more excited about covering a women's event at Amalie Arena, which, by the way, I've seen a lot of Red Wings in a Lightning game. And if that isn't good enough, what about the NHL All-Star game? And I had a chance to meet my friend Kenny Albert there. So now I can add this to the list of things I'm doing at Amalie Arena, and all thanks to Leo Haggerty. And by the way, Brian Segrist. Oh, I love you, Brian. Even though I was a little bit loud on Leo's show along with Peter Blake, Brian handled it pretty gracefully. He did, you know, and Leo tells the story better than anybody. You see, he's loud, he's long-winded, but he's still fun. And so, with all due respect, Leo, assists don't only come in hockey and basketball, but I want to send a special thank you to Mr. Haggerty for encouraging me to apply for it. And the fact that I got the approval inside of 48 hours, I'll just say this much. Good riddance, Sebring. I'm glad to go back to my neck of the woods in Tampa to cover this event, and I will give it everything I've got. I really will, because I'm really excited about it. The only regret I have is it's too bad I'm a year late from Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys. Any one of these teams make it in, it's going to be a great tournament. You got USC, UCLA, you got LSU, you got South Carolina, you got Connecticut, and you got Texas at number 1. I'll tell you what.
Wow.
Before those 6 get in, it's going to be a great tournament. Oh, did I forget LSU? I did. Yeah.
Well, I hope UConn. I actually hope UConn gets there so I can finally talk to Gino Oriema. I'll be really curious how that is. And it's unfortunate that Pat Summitt isn't alive. I'd love to talk to that woman, because if it weren't for her, NCAA women's basketball wouldn't be where it is between her and Oriema. So, you said a mouthful, but one thing you have to understand, Mr. GMTA, USC is a part of the Big Ten. Remember that.
Yes.
Geography lesson, GMTA. Great stuff. Thanks, Leo.
All right, Pensman Sports, your thoughts. Women's college basketball, we're coming up on Final Four, which Scott will be involved in, and we're also coming up on tournament time for men's and women. Your thoughts, Pensman? Go ahead.
Thanks, Christopher.
I'm a huge Duke fan, but I can't see Duke women doing it. I can see Duke men possibly get it. Depends on their seeding, but I think nobody can out top Gino. What Gino's done, and what Gino's done. What he does to that program, I don't think anybody can top what he's doing.
Ray FIDEPALDO.
Yeah, listen, a lot of juice the last couple of years with the women's Final Four with Caitlin Clark. Listen, I'm just interested in how the ratings are and whether that effect is going to continue without her. So that's what I'll be watching.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Ray. I agree with you 100%. Women's basketball, women's sports as a whole, as the ratings are up sky high on stuff. World Cup soccer, WNBA basketball with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, and a whole lot more of women's sports are now starting to become very popular. A lot of people showing up. They even have a women's professional hockey league, which Pittsburgh is getting a team, and so that's how much further women's sports have gone. So, all right, Leo Haggerty.
Well, you know what, guys? I want to take a little bit of what Doug Gottlieb said a couple weeks ago, because he was asked, why is women's basketball not at the forefront after Juju Watkins dropped 44 on an undefeated UCLA team? And he made a very prolific comment. He said, and he thought about this. He said, women's basketball is still a niche sport. You know what, guys? If you think about that, he may be right. It's something that people in Connecticut are going to watch, people in Louisiana are going to watch, but it's not going to be nationwide. And I think they got to take that next step as to get, if Caitlin Clark's playing, that's must-see TV in the WNBA. But you got to make it must-see TV for more than one person, because if not, it's just a niche sport.
All right, absolutely. Okay, let's.
Let me interrupt for a moment, Leo. I am so amazed that Jackie Eisenhower, that you work with Gaither. Please follow through with that. I can't wait. Maybe if you can arrange it, maybe the three of us can hang out at Black Rock. How does that sound?
I will work on it.
I know you will. You're great about that stuff. But Jackie Eisenhower was awesome. I really liked her. And I'll say something between me and you. Back in the day, I was interested in going out with her back then. But then again, she was awfully good looking and a heck of a basketball player. And now a reunion would be unbelievable if it could happen.
Perfect plan.
All right. Tiger Stripes Media says the sleeper team is Clemson. So there you go.
Oh,
right.
Tiger, I agree with you wholeheartedly. When's the last time Clemson beat Duke and North Carolina in the space of 72 hours?
Absolutely. All right, let's get to our final segment here a little bit. The home. Geez, I'm tongue twisted this morning, and I don't know why, but I am. My town. Which I was allowed to use by Scott and Candy. which means you tell us something about what's going on in your town. How about we'll start off with Ray FIDEPALDO. Go ahead.
Well, we touched on it early in this program. Who's going to quarterback the Steelers in 2025? I think they're keeping their oars in the water for both Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Looks like Justin Fields wants to go to free agency, so we'll see if the Steelers allow that. Maybe they move on and say, hey, go ahead if you want to test the waters. I think that's their guy, but if he wants to test it, I think we might be back to Russell Wilson when it's all said and done.
All right, Leo Haggerty.
Well, we got some great things going on here in Tampa. We got the Boston Bruins minus the Rat, Marchand. They're going to play a little matinee 3 o'clock at Amalie Arena. And you know what, Scott? I hope you caught that Lightning game down in Florida with the Panthers, because the Lightning are 9-1 in their last 10. And the star of the game shouldn't have been Bobrovsky. It should have been the pipes behind him, because the Lightning hit 2 of them and one with 0.3 of a second left, or that would have been a different outcome. But, yeah, the Lightning are on fire. So are Florida. They've won 6 in a row. And we've got the USF women. They're in the quarterfinals down at Dickies Arena in the AAC. They're going to play the winner of Wichita State and Tulane on Monday. The men, they're going to wait till probably the end of the week. They're going to probably be seeded 7 or 8 in that. And, hey, spring training, guys. The Rays are going 6 out of 7 days.
Sorry, I had my mic mute. Pensman Sports, go ahead. You're next. My town.
If you guys didn't stay up for it last night, you didn't miss much. The Pittsburgh Penguins lost with a score of 4-0 to the Las Vegas Knights. They keep losing. I don't know what's going on with that team. I don't know if they're trying to get the lottery or what. I don't know. It was frustrating, but they lose the score of 4-0. They look flat. I don't know. And Duke Blue Devils tonight is playing North Carolina round 2 at 6:30. I think they're going for a regular season ACC title crown tonight. So hopefully they get it, and hopefully that momentum shifts to the ACC tournament and the March Madness.
All right, Scott Morganroth.
Well, I have no choice but to do this, but I'm going to piggyback off of Joshua Dorr. Bill Zito's next stop will be in Toronto as a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame. And I'll give you 3 reasons why. Makes a decision to bring on Brad Marchand. And on Thursday's edition of Sports Exchange, I had Mike Santos on. Pensman was there with me. And we talk about the long-term injured reserve. This guy played that card as perfectly as you can get. So what happens? They bring in a goaltender, I think, was it from Nashville, Ventic, whatever. I don't know what these guys' names are. Anyways, it was an exchange for a minor leaguers that you have, Chris Drieger. So you bring in goaltending depth. You take advantage of that loophole in the National Hockey League by bringing in goaltending depth for the Charlotte Checkers. Then you bring in Seth, I think, Jones, right? Correct? And that trade that you have for Spencer Knight, and all of a sudden you have a repeat waiting to happen. So with all due respect, it's pretty hard to debate against the moves that the Panthers are doing down the stretch, because what Mike Santos taught me, for those of you hockey fans, and again, I encourage you to watch the Sports Exchange on Thursday night on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, is you can go out there. There's no salary cap when it comes to the playoffs. There isn't. So you're buying time by going out there and having Matthew Tkachuk on long-term injury is what you're doing. By doing that, it's up to the owner, Vinny Viola, if he wants to spend the extra money to go out there and add these players. And Vinny's committed to doing it. He has a heck of a great coach, heck of a coach, in Paul Maurice. This team is truly taking advantage of the window that it has. Now, if the Lightning and the Panthers were to play each other, I'm going to still say it's a coin toss. I really am, because I think they're that close. There's a lucky bounce or two here and there, and it can go the other way, because the Lightning are over. To me, they are underrated with the acquisition of Jack Gensel. We all thought that they were writing them off when Steve Stamkos left. Guess what? If I understand correctly, John Cooper's a pretty good coach. And if I'm not right, then, well, it won't be the first time I'm wrong, and it won't be the last time I'm wrong. So I do believe that the Panthers and the Washington Capitals will make it to the conference final, and I'm not even going to dare to predict what's going to happen out west. I don't even know that much. I can't think that far ahead. It's hard to bet against the Panthers. They're making some awfully good moves at the trade deadline, and as long as Sergei Bobrovsky is in the pipes and he's playing really good hockey, I've always said that you have to really ride a hot goaltender until this guy proves that he's not a hot goaltender. That's another story. But let me tell you this. Spencer Knight will do well with the Chicago Blackhawks. And the Panthers knew to get a player of Seth Jones' caliber, you had to start with a future cornerstone there. That's a win-win situation for both. So, yeah, Joshua, I totally agree. I think there's no question that the Panthers are the team to beat.
Scott, I'm going to piggyback on you. The Las Vegas Knights have a good chance of making the finals, if at least close, because they're a good team in the West. So we'll see what happens in the West.
Pensman, let me add one other thing, if I may. Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm looking forward to seeing FAU tomorrow and talking to Jeff Jacobs. I know, as I understand, Leo, that they won their first game ever against USF in Tampa. I wasn't there because obviously I've been busy here on my commitments. And I love USF, and I always go for USF over FAU all day long because I'm a Bull, and there's nothing that'll take away from it. But the fact that he got a monumental win in Tampa, replacing Dusty May, was a pretty nice accomplishment for FAU, and I'm looking forward to covering that game tomorrow over in Boca Raton. So, yeah, Stars versus Panthers in the Stanley Cup Final. Pretty hard to argue against that matchup because the Stars made some pretty good moves down the stretch. They did. It could happen. And once upon a time, they played in the same division during COVID-19 as well, but nobody will ever remember that because all the Canadian teams were north of the border playing in the same division, Joshua, just to let you know that I do follow sport that much. Sorry, Leo, if I went a little bit long here, but I also endorse the Tampa side of the equation. And, okay, the clock is what it is, but I know Leo will be more than happy to go ahead and accept the fact that I've got him covered over at BlackRock, so he can make sure that as long as that watch isn't as pricey as Peter Blake's Rolex, it's no big deal. We'll have a good time at BlackRock. Okay,
You're allowed 2 overtimes a show. How's that?
What's that?
You're allowed 2 overtimes a show. How's that?
If that's the worst problem I have, then Nelly, as Keith Jackson would say.
I'll drink that.
There you go.
All right. Our studio sponsor is Mata Heating and Air Conditioning, 724-201-0500. Mata Heating and Air Conditioning. Call them today for all your heating and air conditioning needs. Spring is coming. Summer's on the way. Get that air conditioner looked at. Also UV lighting and also the snow melt if you need that as well. I'm hoping the snow goes away and we're done. All right, our last segment here, which is our final segment, final thoughts, and then we're going to go into our, how to get a hold of everybody. And that's brought to you by Alex's Flowers, 412-661-6071. Call Alex today. 35 years in the flower business. This guy knows flowers. So give him a call today. Weddings, funerals, special occasions for your sweetheart, anything you need flowers for, call Alex today or go on alexsflowers.com. All right. Okay, let's get started. Final thoughts. Ray FIDEPALDO.
All right. After the Steelers figure out who's going to play quarterback for them, they got almost $65 million in cap to spend. They need a receiver in free agency. They need a corner. And they also need a defensive lineman. So a lot of money to spend, and I think Omar Khan is going to spend it.
All right.
When?
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Wednesday.
I think they're kind of being cautious right now, I think, but we'll see what happens.
I need something to report, Ray.
Leo Haggerty, final thoughts.
Well, I just here's my problem with the men's basketball tournament. You got guys like Joe Lunardi, who I have no idea why he's an expert, is talking about 13 teams from the SEC getting in. My question is, let's say a team like Memphis gets beat in the tournament. You're going to take an Arkansas, which is 6-10 in their conference, over Memphis, who won the AAC? They got to stop looking at this. The NCAA needs to set a limit. If you're not 500 or better in your conference, you're not getting in unless you win the tournament. Bottom line, they need to do that because too many of these, well, they're saying, well, they're playing these tough teams. Well, guess what? Get better and win.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that, Leo. That's a real good final thought there. Scott Morganroth, your final thoughts.
Well, last I heard, Andre Vasilevsky was a pretty good goaltender, right?
Very good.
Yeah, he's really good. Just as good as Leroy Selman, who was inducted as the first pick ever by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Hall of Fame. It's pretty good, right? But let's go back to my hometown of Detroit. Steve Eiserman makes a minor move. Joe Valeno over to the Chicago Blackhawks for Peter Mrazek. Craig Smith. I don't know much about Craig Smith. I'll trust Steve Eiserman. Built teams before. We ought to know in Tampa. Will that be enough for the Red Wings to get past their long playoff route? I don't know, but I hope so. This team, the NHL is better with an original team doing well. If you don't believe me, look at last Saturday's Columbus game against the Red Wings, and 1.6 million people watched it at night. That's what you have to look at. The NHL is better when the Red Wings are doing really, really, really well. They really are. And the fact of the matter is Eiserman did build a juggernaut in Tampa. He'll do it again in Detroit. But as far as the move that they made yesterday, the minor move, I understand the logic. You don't want to mortgage the future. Stevie, I just hope that this minor move gets the Wings into the playoffs. I can't imagine another year without them not being in the playoffs. And one other thing, this show has come a long way in 3 weeks, and I can't wait to see how much it continues to grow. And that's all because of the crew that we have. Great stuff, guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's been a great show. The show's growing, as Scott said. We are moving along here. As the Jeffersons say, we're moving on up. All right, Tiger Media here says, I can read it real quick. My eyes are giving me a hard time today.
No, Ralph, Jefferson's in moving on up.
I am not running the end.
To a deluxe apartment. Don't get me to say. No,
all right. My final thoughts are this. Pittsburgh Penguins are an awful team. Fenway Group needs to either sell this team or they need to fix it. And so far, they haven't fixed much. Michael Bunting just got traded. He was involved in the Jake Gensel trade, and now we've traded him. I know Kyle Dubas is trying to make this a younger, faster team, but sometimes you got to be careful who you trade. How about Erik Karlsson? How about his no trade clause that Ron Hextall put on that or that thing? And also, don't forget as well.
Great move, Ron. Good move. Good move.
Yeah, I know. And then on top of that, Chris Letang, who has done absolutely nothing, is injured every year. He needs to go as well. The Pittsburgh Penguins need to step up. They need to start getting rid of some of these veteran bums that are doing absolutely nothing. And until they do that, they're not going to be a great team. Mike Sullivan needs to go as well. I get he was the coach of the U.S. team, and goaltending is a problem. Kyle Dubas needs to step up. I thought he would be a better general manager, and maybe I was wrong, and I got, I was wrong. And when I'm wrong, I'll come out and admit I was wrong. Steelers, on the other hand, as Ray said, they need to get their quarterback situation straightened out. They need to get some defensive linemen here, and I'm hoping they get a couple in the draft and get a veteran or two in here. So they got to do something with Ogunjobi's contract. He's overpaid and has done absolutely nothing. They need to restructure Cam Hayward's contract and a few other guys to get some people in here and get it going. They have all the salary cap money, like Ray said. Let's start thinking outside the box, and let's quit doing it the Steeler way and start doing it a different way. On the other hand, Pitt football spring practice is coming up, and so I'm waiting for the April spring game. I can't wait to see what Pitt's going to look like. They're going to have some great offensive weapons this year, and also on the defense, they lost a lot of defensive guys to the transfer portal and a whole lot more. So we will absolutely see what happens there. All right, some more here from Tiger Sports, and I appreciate Josh, Tiger Sports here, for all their comments as well. And in any way, let me see what we got here.
Well, Ralph, with all due respect, I have to be objective about Joshua Doerr's come a long way compared to where he used to be.
Yes, he has.
I realize Sigmund Freud is not on my birth certificate, so I won't take credit for that because Herman Kiefer Hospital in Detroit doesn't have it on there. And that's who prints my birth certificate. Of course, they don't anymore because they're all online, but that's all. And Reciprocal Law, great stuff, Tiger Strike Media. Yeah, we have the same name, but yours is first and mine is middle. Okay, sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. Tiger, also don't forget to subscribe and follow me on my Facebook and Twitter, subscribe on my YouTube channel. And please don't forget to follow me on my Twitter X platforms. And we're going to get into our closing here, how everyone can be reached. I can be reached on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter X platform, also Tumblr. And I can also be reached on at www.rwmediaproductions.com. Check out my website. Also, several shows I have on my YouTube channel, Ralph Williams, RW Media. Please subscribe. call your friend, call your cousin, call somebody, get them subscribing, get them following me on the Twitter X platform as well. I'm trying to build up my Twitter X account as well. All right, so there you are. Okay, let's get started. Scott, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, since Leo said I went overtime twice, I'm going to go undertime once. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. By the way, Reciprocal Boss, please subscribe to South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. Much appreciated. Since Ralph's done a good job with the book, I'll just abbreviate this a little bit. www.southfloridatribune.com is a website. At Tribune South gets it done on Twitter/X. Ralph put it up there, pretty much it. Undertime, Leo, look at the watch. That's all I have to say because Ralph did a really
big boy.
That's all. Great stuff.
All right,
proud of this group.
Okay, Scott.
And by the way, Brian, you're going to end up being on the show one of these days too. I like this guy. He's come a long way in my system. I'm still undertime, Leo. Go ahead.
Yep.
All right. Okay, Pensman Sports. How can people get a hold of you?
All right, after I get done this, I gotta get going because I gotta do something. So
and you do that.
I have to go to a funeral, so I gotta get this done too. So
you can find me on YouTube channel on Pensman Sports. I have 757. Let's get to that 1,000, and you can find me on X on Pensman Sports. I'll answer any questions you guys have. So that's how you can find me.
all right, Ray Fittipaldo, thank you for being part of the show today.
Yep, absolutely. On X at RayFit1, also Pittsburgh Post-Gazette YouTube channel.
And by the way, Ray will definitely be in touch. Thank you very much. Appreciate being on with you today.
Good seeing you guys.
All right. Also, Leo Haggerty, Amped Up Sports. Go ahead with your. How can people get a hold of you?
AmpedUpSports.com. You can get this there. You can get us on YouTube. You can get us on Facebook. We're all over the joint.
All right. I'm Ralph Williams. Until next Saturday, everybody, please have yourself a safe day. And please don't forget this afternoon, 2 to 3 p.m., the Sports Corner radio show with me, Ralph Williams, Smoking Jim Frazier, and Luther Dupree. Claudio will not be joining us today. And our guest, Ray Fittipaldo, he's going to be joining us at 2 o'clock. And for Scott Morganroth, Leo Haggerty, Pensman Sports, and Ray Fittipaldo, I'm Ralph Williams. Have yourself a great day. Thank you for watching.
We'll be in touch, Leo.